Right now, in a lagoon in Mexico, a gray whale is swimming toward a boat full of strangers with her newborn calf beside her. She isn't moving it away from them. She's bringing it closer, lifting it up so that a human hand can reach it. And to understand how completely insane that is, you need to know what people did to the calves in this exact water. It started with one man in 1972, a fisherman named Pachico Mayoral, alone in a small boat in that same lagoon when the water beside him rose. 30 tons of gray whale. And every fisherman there lived by one rule about these animals: do not let them get close. The whale didn't leave. It just hung there beside the boat, doing nothing at all. And for reasons he could never really explain afterwards, Pachico put his hand in the water. The whale pressed into it and stayed, which should not have happened, because whalers had a nickname for this animal. They called it the devilfish, and they earned that name in that exact lagoon. Gray whales make the longest migration of any mammal on Earth, around 10,000 miles from the Arctic down to a handful of warm, shallow lagoons in Mexico. They go there for one reason: it's where they give birth. In the 1800s, whalers found the lagoons, and then they worked out the most efficient way in the world to kill a mother. The man who found them was an American whaling captain named Charles Melville Scammon. In the 1850s, he tracked the whales into the lagoons, and the entire fleet followed him in. One of those lagoons still sits on the map today under his name. You harpoon the calf, not to kill it, to make it cry. Because a gray whale mother will not leave a calf in distress. She surfaces, she stays, and in that moment, she is the easiest large animal on the planet to kill. Some of them fought back. They smashed the boats. They came up underneath them. That's where devilfish comes from. It was never a description of the animal. It was a description of what any animal does when you take its baby. By the early 1900s, the eastern gray whale was almost gone. The lagoons went quiet, and that could have been the end of it. One more species we emptied out of the ocean. Except that's not how this one ends. They were protected, and they came back. One of the very few real recoveries our species has ever managed. And then, about 50 years after the last harpoon, they started doing something nobody asked them to do. And this is where we came in. In the same lagoon where we killed their calves to get to them, gray whale mothers started bringing their newborns to the boats, not tolerating us, delivering, lifting a calf up on her back so that a total stranger can put a hand on it. And there's a detail about the timing that I can't quite get over. 1972, the year Pachico put his hand in that water, is also the year Mexico turned the lagoon into a protected refuge. The same year the United Nations voted to call for an end to commercial whaling. The same year, the United States passed the Marine Mammal Protection Act. The first whale came over to say hello in the exact year we finally, formally, stopped. And once you've seen it, you start noticing that whales aren't the only ones doing it. January 11th, 2013, off Kona, Hawaii. A diver named Keller Laros is leading a night dive when a bottlenose dolphin swims straight into him. There's a fishing hook through its pectoral fin and line wrapped around its body. It pushes itself into his hands. He works on it for about 8 minutes with a pair of scissors. Twice, the dolphin has to leave to breathe. Twice, it comes back. And it isn't only dolphins. Sydney, 2003. A whale shark, an animal the size of a bus, holds completely still beside a small fishing boat while a stranger leans over and cuts a rope off its body. These are animals with every reason to run. Instead, they come closer, they hold still, and they let the single most dangerous species on this planet put its hands on them. Now, if you watched our one about predators, this should be bothering you by now. On land, everything runs. A recording of a human voice can empty an entire forest. Toward us, because the fear was never built in. It's learned, it's taught, and it only stays alive as long as we keep being dangerous. Take the danger out of one small lagoon for 50 years, and it starts to fade. Same rule, opposite result. The unsentimental answer is habituation. An animal that runs into humans over and over, especially where food turns up, slowly stops reading us as a threat. That's not trust. That's a fear response wearing out. And that covers the lagoon. The dolphin with a hook through its fin is a different thing entirely. An animal in real trouble, doing something it would never do on an ordinary day. And that genuinely explains a lot. It explains an animal that doesn't flee. It has a much harder time explaining an animal that swims over, lifts up her baby, and waits. Because this behavior isn't holding still. Researchers have been watching this lagoon for decades. Stephen Schwartz has been at it for about 45 years. And they describe the friendliness less like a reflex and more like a tradition. It doesn't spread by instinct. Calves learn it in the water, from mothers doing it in front of them, which means that somewhere out there right now, a whale is teaching her child that our hands are safe. And here's the part they leave out of the brochure. That trust is dangerous for them. An animal that has lost its fear of us is easier to hit with a boat, easier to poach, easier to feed the wrong thing to. Every one of these beautiful moments makes that animal slightly less equipped to survive the next human it meets. We were never the safe option. We're just the one they stopped running from. Pacheco spent the rest of his life taking people out to meet the animals he'd been raised to keep away from. He died in 2013. The whales are still there. They're still bringing their calves. And Scammon, the captain who found the nurseries, spent his later years writing. In 1874, he published the first serious book on the whales of that coast, describing them with something that reads a lot like tenderness, and warning that if the hunting carried on, the gray whale would vanish completely. He was right. It very nearly did. The book barely sold in his lifetime. We hunted them in the one place they go to give birth. We hurt their children on purpose because it made their mothers easier to reach. And a century later, their descendants swim over to our boats and lift their children up to be touched. Call it habituation if you like. Plenty of serious people do, and they might be right. It is still the closest thing to forgiveness this ocean has ever offered us. And we did absolutely nothing to earn it. Which raises a genuinely uncomfortable follow-up question. If a whale can let something like that go, can any animal actually hold a grudge? That one's next. Stick around. We'll see you in it.